Everything begins in consciousness. What you see with your eyes, what you touch with your hands, what you hear with your ears, is not the origin of life, but the reflection of an unseen cause. The visible is only the shadow of the invisible. Your entire world, every condition you call real, is the fruit of a state you have once occupied within yourself. It is not the event that creates the feeling. It is the feeling that creates the event. This is why the ancients declared that the kingdom of heaven is within you. It is the kingdom of states of consciousness. And to dwell in a state is to summon into being the conditions and experiences that correspond to it. Consciousness is the only reality because it is the source from which all things proceed and to which all things return. If a man feels himself to be poor, even though his bank account temporarily shows plenty, the world will bend itself to match his inner poverty. And if another man feels himself to be wealthy, even while circumstances deny it, the world must eventually conform and mirror that inward wealth. It is not because one is luckier than the other, but because one understands that the inner seed determines the outer harvest. The fruit does not decide its own taste or shape. The seed contains everything. The state of consciousness you assume is that seed, and from it springs the experiences you call reality. This understanding demands that you stop blaming the world and begin taking responsibility for what you entertain inwardly. If you live in the state of complaint, you will meet events that justify your complaints. If you dwell in the state of gratitude, life will unfold in ways that multiply your joy. Nothing comes into your world uninvited. Your state is always welcoming something, and that which it welcomes becomes flesh before your very eyes. It may appear to come from others. It may look as if chance delivered it. But beneath all appearances, it was summoned by the invisible activity of your consciousness. Therefore the question is not whether circumstances can change, but whether you will dare to change the state from which you live. The outer world is powerless to resist the inner conviction. The challenge is that most people wait for evidence before they allow themselves to feel different. They want to see the change before they claim it. But life works in the opposite order. You must feel first, and then see. This is why consciousness is declared the only reality. The seen world is but the echo. The unseen assumption is the voice. The second truth follows naturally from this. Feeling precedes fact. This is the heart of creation and the stumbling block for so many. We are taught to believe only what the senses confirm. Yet the senses are forever reporting the past. By the time something reaches the physical eye, it has already been formed in the unseen. To demand proof before feeling is to ask the shadow to move before the object moves. It is to ask the fruit to grow before planting the seed. The law of life cannot be reversed. Feeling must come first, and fact must follow. Imagine the man who longs for success yet continually entertains feelings of failure. He watches his outer world for signs of improvement, and when none appear, he strengthens his conviction that success is far away. His feeling of failure grows heavier, and life faithfully echoes it. Now picture another man who, though surrounded by obstacles, dares to enter the mood of success. He walks as though doors are opening. He speaks as though opportunities are already his. He feels within himself the thrill of achievement. Though at first invisible, these feelings shape his world, and soon events rise up to justify the inner mood. He does not wait for facts to give him permission to feel. He feels first, and the facts obediently arrange themselves. This principle is not about pretending or lying to yourself. It is about understanding that the feeling is the cause. To occupy the feeling of already being who you wish to be is to unite with that reality. The world cannot help but reflect what you have chosen to embody. If you feel love within, you will meet love without. If you feel abundance, you will see it multiply. If you feel lack, lack will parade before you no matter how much you already hold in your hands. Feeling precedes fact because feeling is the creative act itself. Consider a gardener. He does not stand before the bare soil demanding fruit before planting. He plants first, trusting the seed to bring forth after its kind. He waters, he tends, he persists in the unseen work beneath the ground. Then, in its appointed season, the fruit appears. In the same way, when you dare to plant a feeling within yourself, though nothing appears outwardly at first, the unseen activity has already begun. To doubt in that moment is to uproot the seed. To persist is to harvest. Many struggle because they confuse waiting with creating. They think life is a matter of chance and patience. But life is a matter of assumption and persistence. The moment you occupy a feeling, creation is finished. The outer world is only catching up. The delay is not denial. It is simply the unfolding of the invisible into the visible. The wise do not measure by appearances. They measure by their inner conviction. If you can feel it as real within, you can rest in the certainty that it will show forth without. This is why you are urged to practice the art of assuming the wish fulfilled. Do not wait for evidence is the shadow. Feel the joy of having already received, and the law of life must deliver. This is not an empty ritual. It is the way the universe works. Every invention, every discovery, every change in history began as a feeling in one man's imagination. The facts of today were once invisible moods in the hearts of men. Those who understood the secret felt their future before the world could see it, and the world simply followed. Feeling precedes fact because life is spiritual first and material second. To insist upon waiting for the material is to delay your own blessing. It is to walk through life blind to your creative power. But once you accept that your inner state is the birthplace of all experience, you will no longer be a victim of circumstances. You will know that by choosing what you feel, you are choosing what must come to pass. It is a sacred responsibility, for you cannot escape the harvest of your inner climate. But it is also a glorious freedom, for you can sow at will and reap according to your faith. The great challenge, then, is not in learning how to make the world obey, but in learning how to govern the feelings within yourself. To discipline your imagination is the highest form of mastery, because imagination is the workshop of creation. Feeling it before you have it is the only doorway to possessing it in the physical world. Those who wait will keep waiting. Those who feel will find. Those who doubt will wander in circles. Those who dare to assume will see their world transformed. So let every man examine himself. What feelings dominate your days? What moods do you habitually entertain? These are the silent prayers continually shaping your destiny. Life answers not your words but your feelings. If you desire a new world, you must occupy a new state. If you long for freedom, you must feel free long before the chains fall away. If you hunger for love, you must feel loved in the secret place of your heart before the arms of another can mirror it back to you. The unseen always precedes the seen. The seed always precedes the fruit. Feeling always precedes fact. Imagination is the great creative power hidden within every man and woman. It is not some fanciful daydream that has no impact on the world. It is the very substance from which all things are made. When you close your eyes and dare to see with the inner vision, you are stepping into the workshop where all of life's events are shaped. To imagine is not to escape reality. It is to construct it. The invisible scene you dare to feel and embody will one day harden into the facts of your life. Every invention, every work of art, every discovery began in the unseen chamber of imagination. The great cities, the vast bridges, the marvels of technology, all were first pictures in the mind of some dreamer who trusted the invisible more than the visible. The world called them foolish until the invisible became visible and the dream became fact. If you wish to change your life, you must learn to change the imaginal activity within yourself. What you entertain inwardly is constantly flowing outward into the circumstances of your days. Many imagine carelessly and then complain at the harvest they reap. They hold images of fear, failure, and limitation, never realizing they are planting seeds in the fertile soil of imagination. Then when these states bloom in the outer world, they believe themselves victims of chance or fate. But life has no favorites. It is impartial, responding only to the imaginal acts that are persisted in. The one who deliberately chooses to imagine the scene of fulfilled desire is the one who has seized the key to creation. When you imagine, it is not enough to see a picture. You must feel it real. The senses within imagination are as real, if not more real, than those of the outer world. To look, to hear, to touch, to taste, and to smell in imagination is to give reality to the invisible. The secret is to so immerse yourself in the imaginal scene that it feels natural, that it feels like something you are remembering rather than something you are wishing for. Once you reach that point of naturalness, creation is finished. The outer world is powerless to prevent it, for it is compelled to reflect the inner reality that has already been accepted as true. Imagination is the Christ within, the creative spirit of God clothed in man. It is the power that calls things which are not seen as though they were and makes them appear. When you imagine lovingly, you are not merely entertaining a hope. You are setting in motion the very force that will shape the future. Imagination is not idle. It is the great cause. It is the treasure house from which the world receives its form. To neglect it is to live as a servant of circumstance. To master it is to live as the ruler of your destiny. The world will always tempt you to believe only what your senses confirm. Yet your senses are bound to the past. They show you what has already been formed, not what can be. If you wish to transcend the limits of your present condition, You must dare to deny the evidence of your senses and trust the higher vision of imagination. Close your eyes to what is and open them inwardly to what can be. Feel it as though it were already yours. Walk in the joy of possession. Speak in the confidence of accomplishment. Move through life not as a beggar hoping for change, but as a creator knowing that the unseen world must eventually reveal itself. This brings us to the law of assumption, the great secret of all manifestation. The law is simple yet profound. What you assume to be true, though unseen, though denied by the senses, will in time harden into fact. Assumption is the act of accepting inwardly that you already are, or have what you desire. It is not asking, it is not pleading, it is not hoping. It is claiming and occupying the state of the wish fulfilled. The world around you is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the states you have dared to assume. To live by this law requires courage, for it means abandoning the habit of waiting for proof. It asks you to walk in faith, not blind faith, but the assurance that the inner state creates the outer fact. If you assume lack, lack persists. If you assume abundance, abundance appears. The world does not question your assumption, it simply reflects it. If you assume yourself to be healthy, even while the body protests, you are planting the seed of health, and the body must conform. If you assume yourself to be loved, even when alone, you are creating the conditions for love to bloom. The assumption you persist in becomes the reality you inhabit. Most people fail to understand that life does not deliver what you want. It delivers what you assume. Wanting is the confession of not having, and to dwell in want is to perpetuate absence. Assumption is possession. To assume is to inwardly accept that the desired state is already yours. This is why assumption is the bridge between imagination and fact. Imagination supplies the picture. Assumption gives it reality. When you feel the scene in imagination and then assume it as your present state, you have already created the outcome. The outer world is only the delayed reflection of that inner acceptance. Time is never your enemy when you live by assumption. The when and the how are contained within the state itself. You are not asked to force events, only to occupy the state. When you assume it is done, time bends to make it so. The outer world may shift, rearrange, and surprise you, but it cannot resist the compulsion of an assumed state. The one who persists in assumption walks in a calm assurance, knowing that reality must eventually echo the inner conviction. The law of assumption demands persistence. A single assumption, lightly held and quickly abandoned, produces little, but a state that is persisted in, despite appearances, gathers momentum. Each time you return to the assumption, you deepen the groove, you reinforce the conviction, and you anchor yourself more securely in the end you have chosen. Eventually, the assumption feels so natural that it requires no effort. At that moment, creation is complete, and the outer world cannot delay the manifestation. When you grasp this law, you no longer live as one tossed about by chance. You understand that the outer world is powerless without your consent. The law of assumption does not ask whether you deserve. It does not question your worthiness. It does not measure by past deeds. It simply reflects your present assumption. If you can assume it and persist in it, life must yield it. This is the justice of the law, for it shows no partiality. It is available to all, but only those who dare to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled taste its power. Imagine vividly, feel it real, and then assume it as your present reality. Do not wait for signs. Do not look to the world for confirmation. Carry this state within you until it feels like your natural home. The world will eventually conform to the truth you have claimed in secret. To transform life. It is not enough to merely think of what you desire. Thinking of it keeps it distant. Always a possibility that lives somewhere in the future, but never here and now. The true art is to think from it. To so fully identify with the end that you no longer stand outside of it as a dreamer, but live within it as though it were already fact. To think from the end is to shift the center of your being. Instead of reaching toward what you long for, you take your stand inside the fulfilled state and look out at the world from that point of view. It is the difference between longing for a home and living inside the house of your dreams. When you live from the end, your desires no longer feel like distant hopes. They feel like present realities, and because they feel present, the world has no choice but to bend itself to your conviction. This is not an exercise in pretending or wishful thinking. It is a deliberate choice to claim the reality of your desire before your senses can confirm it. The senses are always late reporters, forever showing you what has already been accepted within. By living from the end, you bypass the delay of appearances and claim the essence of your desire in advance. Think of an actor who plays his role with such conviction that he no longer feels he is pretending. For those moments on stage, he inhabits the character fully. His gestures, his voice, his very mood flow naturally because he is thinking from the role rather than about it. The same principle applies in life. When you inhabit the role of the one who already has what you desire, your thoughts, words, and actions begin to align effortlessly. The world responds as though you are that person, because in truth, you are. Living from the end also dissolves the energy of striving. So many people live in perpetual effort, always chasing after something that seems just beyond reach. But to live from the end is to rest in the awareness that it is already accomplished. From that place of rest, your actions are no longer frantic attempts to make something happen. They become natural expressions flowing out of who you now believe yourself to be. Effort is replaced by ease, and struggle gives way to a calm confidence. Asterisk words and images alone are not enough. You must feel what it is like to already be the one you wish to be, to walk with the satisfaction of the fulfilled desire, to carry yourself with the joy of having received. When this feeling becomes natural, you no longer try to hold on to it. It holds on to you. You live in the end without forcing it, and the world reshapes itself in harmony with your inner stance. In this practice, you will find that memory becomes a powerful tool. Living from the end is like remembering something that has already happened. You do not strain to believe it, you simply recall it. The same ease with which you remember yesterday's events can be brought to your desired state. You can recall the joy of accomplishment, the relief of answered prayers, the delight of a dream fulfilled, as though it were already behind you. To remember the future is to make it present. Yet none of this can take root without the practice of silence. Silence is the fertile soil in which the seeds of imagination grow. It is in the quiet of your inner chamber that you plant and nurture the vision. In the noise of the world, imagination is scattered, distracted, and weakened. But in silence, imagination finds its strength. The stillness allows the mind to focus, to dwell deeply in the chosen scene until it takes on the substance of reality. Silence is not merely the absence of sound but the stilling of inner chatter. It is the quieting of doubt, the silencing of arguments, the ceasing of frantic questioning. In silence, you cease asking when and how, and you rest in the assurance that the seed has been planted. Just as a farmer does not dig up his crop every day to check its progress, you must learn to leave the seed in the soil of silence, confident that growth is taking place unseen. In the quiet moments before sleep, silence becomes especially powerful. As the outer world fades and the body grows still, the gate to the subconscious opens wide. This is the time to gently slip into the feeling of the wish fulfilled. No words are necessary, no effort required. A simple imaginal act, clothed in the feeling of reality, dropped into the silence of the mind, is enough to set creation in motion. The silence of night is the womb of the future, and what you plant there will surely come forth in the light of day. Silence also teaches patience. The world often urges haste, demanding immediate proof, but silence whispers of hidden processes working beyond sight. The seed does not sprout the moment it is planted, yet the silence assures you it is alive. In the same way, when you plant an assumption in the silence of imagination, you may not see immediate evidence, but you can trust that unseen forces are aligning. To remain faithful in silence is to acknowledge that creation is already complete, and time is only the stage upon which it unfolds. The greatest masters of creation have always known the value of withdrawing into silence. They understood that the world outside is shaped by the world within, and that the power to shape lies not in noise or struggle, but in quiet conviction. In silence, you learn to hear the still, small voice of assurance. In silence, you discover the calm certainty that what you have assumed will be made visible. It is in the silence that your union with the desired state becomes firm, unshakable, and alive. By combining the practice of living from the end with the cultivation of silence, you create a powerful rhythm of inner work. You step into the end with conviction, and you nurture it in the silence until it grows strong. You walk in the world as though it were already so, and you return in private to the silence where the vision is renewed and deepened. This rhythm carries you beyond doubt and lifts you into the certainty of faith. From there, the outer world can only reflect what has already been settled within. The outer world is a persistent teacher, and it will always try to persuade you with appearances. When you set your heart upon a vision that is unseen, you will be confronted by circumstances that seem to argue against your faith. These appearances are not there to stop you. They are there to test the strength of your assumption. The secret lies in persistence. To persist in your inner conviction, no matter what the senses report, is the mark of mastery. Every great transformation in life comes to those who refuse to be shaken by the outer evidence. The dreamer who bends to appearances becomes a slave to what already is. But the one who holds fast to his inner vision shapes what will be. Persistence is not mere stubbornness. It is the quiet confidence that the unseen is greater than the seen. It is the willingness to continue feeling the wish fulfilled when there is no visible sign. To justify it, think of a sculptor chiseling away at a block of marble. Each strike of the hammer may not reveal the finished form, yet he continues, because he knows the figure already exists within the stone. Persistence in imagination is no different. Each time you return to the state of the wish fulfilled, you are chiseling away at the stone of appearances, revealing the hidden form of your desire. The world may whisper that nothing is changing, that you are foolish to believe in what you cannot see. Yet those whispers only have power if you lend them your attention. The one who persists turns inward again and again, refusing to surrender the inner scene. It is persistence that transforms a fleeting vision into a living reality. Without persistence, the seed is planted but never watered. With persistence, the smallest seed grows into a mighty tree. There will be moments when you are tempted to abandon your vision. Doubt will rise, impatience will stir. The evidence of your senses will mock your faith. In those moments, persistence is your anchor. You remind yourself that the law is unfailing. That assumption, when persisted in, hardens into fact. The outer world cannot resist the sustained pressure of your inner state. It must, in time, rearrange itself to reflect your persistent assumption. Just as water wears away the rock, persistence wears away the resistance of appearances. Persistence is not frantic effort or desperate clinging. It is quiet, steady, and sure. It is the calm returning to the vision each time the world distracts you. It is holding the feeling of the wish fulfilled as often as possible until it feels natural, until it becomes the atmosphere in which you live. When persistence has done its work, you no longer need to remind yourself to assume. The state feels like home, and the world must deliver proof of what has already been accepted within. This persistence leads naturally into the secret of inner union. You and your desire are not separate. The great illusion of life is the belief that the thing you long for exists outside of you, far away, waiting to be attained. In truth, the desire itself is the call of the self you already are, urging you to unite with it. To feel the reality of your desire as though it were present is to merge with it, to make it one with your being. The moment you feel it, the union is complete, even if the outer world has not yet caught up. Inner union is the marriage of your present self with your desired self. When you feel it real, you are saying yes to the union. You are no longer reaching outward. You are embracing inward. This inner embrace is the true act of creation. Just as a seed must unite with the soil before it can sprout, your desire must unite with your imagination before it can appear in the world. The union is invisible, but it is the cause of all visible change. When you persist in assuming the wish fulfilled, you are strengthening this union. At first, it may feel like something you are trying to add to yourself. With persistence, it begins to feel like something you already are. The line between the one who desires and the thing desired fades, until they are indistinguishable. At that point, the world cannot help but reflect the union outwardly. The marriage that was formed in silence becomes visible in the events of your life. This union is not achieved by effort but by surrender. You do not struggle to become what you desire. You simply accept it, feel it, and allow it to take root. The more you surrender to the feeling of already being or having, the stronger the union becomes. It is like sinking into the warmth of a familiar chair. The more you relax into it, the more natural it feels, until you cannot imagine yourself apart from it. Inner union also reveals the truth that every desire you hold is already part of you. You could not desire it if it were not somehow yours already. The longing you feel is not for something foreign, but for the expression of a deeper aspect of your own being. When you embrace the desire within imagination, you are not adding to yourself, but uncovering what has always been there. The union is simply the recognition of your own completeness. When you live in the awareness of this union, doubt loses its power. You no longer ask if it will happen or when it will happen, for you know it is already accomplished within. The outer manifestation becomes a matter of time, but the inner reality is a matter of now. This is why persistence and union are inseparable. Persistence keeps you in the union long enough for it to feel natural. Union gives persistence its power, for once you feel one with your desire, you cannot be shaken from it. In this state of union, life begins to flow differently. Opportunities appear, doors open, people arrive, and circumstances align without strain or effort. You may call it coincidence, but it is only the outer reflection of the inner marriage. The world cannot help but mirror the oneness you have already claimed. What was once a distant hope becomes the air you breathe, the ground you walk on, the fact of your existence. And it all begins with persistence and the courage to feel the reality of your desire before the world can confirm it.